Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Basement Arcade Pause Menu, where we hit pause on that very, very evil level where we just cannot get through and to save our poor controller from destruction. I am your host, Ben Magnet. Unfortunately, I am not joined by my other bros from the Fake Nerd podcast. They have all that other stuff to do today, but I am not alone. Joining me today is an awesome podcaster himself. He is one half of the Retro Blast podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Patrick Brickhouse. How are you, sir?
Hello, Ben. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing awesome. I can't believe we're actually doing this. I'm looking forward to it. I started listening to your podcast a few weeks ago, or actually about a month and a half ago. And I'm like,
nice.
Man, this is really cool. I want to have these guys on. And next thing I know, it's like, and then I get the notifications like, hey, Retro Blast Podcast followed you on Twitter. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we're all about a lot of people on Twitter, will be like, hey, let's collab, let's do a collaboration. Mm-hmm. People are like, cool, let's do it. But I like to actually do it.
Yeah.
When people ask, I'm like, let's do it. Let's talk about. I just like talking about games. So,
oh yeah, dude, so do I. I cannot tell you how many times I'm looking through my Twitter feed, which is like now it's 99% retro video game nerds. Yep. Not just here in the United States, but all over the world. It's like, man, I want to collab with this guy. I want to collab with this girl. I want to collab with this person. And it's like, oh wait, time zones. Time zones are a thing.
Yeah, they are, and it's great though because the community is so awesome. I mean, like most people that I've interacted with in the retro community, super welcoming and super nice, and they definitely, like to. Just talk about this stuff because we're very passionate about it. It's a lot different than a lot of the modern stuff you see now with a lot of those. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, not everybody's the same, but the retro community is pretty chill.
Oh, yeah. They are like, to me, they're like the chillest. So, yeah. So before we actually get into the episode, now the topic of today's episode is video game anniversaries. This year, 2021, there's a bunch of video game anniversaries coming out. Legend of Zelda has a 35th anniversary. Metroid has a 35th. Pokemon has a 25. My personal favorite, Sonic the Hedgehog, has his 30th. And Mario. And as we're recording this, Mario's public execution has not happened yet.
I know. It's. I just recently heard.
I saw the joke, but I mean, even though Mario's was technically last year, I figure we'll throw him in because close enough.
Yeah.
But before we start just like talking and ranting about that, I want to talk to you about your podcast first because you are, like I said earlier, you're one half of the Retro Blast podcast, and I'm curious, how did that podcast start with you and your partner Jay?
So that's a good question. Jay and I, and he's my usual co-host. We've had an episode with another guy named Mike who we brought on because he was a little bit older than us and he was super into Doom and he grew up with like the old stuff. So we might have him back on soon. But nice. Jay and I actually have known each other since we were relatively young, and we grew up in one of the best times for games. We were. We grew up, we were 90s kids. We were born in the, early to mid 80s.
Oh, lucky. I was born in 90s, so I barely made the cut.
Yeah. We were those 90s kids, with the backwards hats and the skateboards and saying rad and stuff. Like that was us, we didn't say rad that much, but we were playing these games, in the 90s. And, we hung out together when, we started getting into like junior high and high school. We go to each other's houses and play. He got a Dreamcast when it first launched and we were, there for that. And we played that in 1999 and were blown away by it. We just grew up with that stuff together. And then a few years ago, we tried the whole YouTube thing. And we really gave it a good try, but YouTube can be tough. I'm sure you probably know this, but like, it's very tough to break into that. You have to dedicate yourself pretty hardcore to it. And we tried a lot. We had an issue where, we had some stuff happen with, Google AdSense and stuff like that, where we had people clicking advertisements too much, and we get notifications, and it was all this mess. Ended up having to restart the channel. We were called Oh No Robo. And so and our stuff's still up, but we kind of just abandoned it, and then we got to a point a few years later where I reached out to him and I said, man, like, we talk all the time about this stuff. We talk about our favorite games. We do this with our friends, and we're very passionate about it. I was like, what about a podcast? Why don't we just try it this way? Because I love listening to podcasts. I had like kind of a long commute to work, and so I would like to, and I love radio. Radio is very calming for me. when I'm driving and listening to audiobooks and stuff and just having that, especially about topics that you care about. And so I was like, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just try again, do something different, and we'll just put it out there and we'll just talk like we normally do and see if people like it. Whether or not they do doesn't matter, because we need that kind of creative outlet. I especially needed a creative outlet.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, so it kind of was born from just the love of it. I mean, we never set out to do this to, we're not trying to like make it big or anything. We just really want to talk about this stuff, and we want to interact with other people that do it. So that's kind of where it came from. It's literally just, I texted him and said, do you want to try doing a podcast? And he was on board immediately, because he loves talking about this stuff too. And we have such different viewpoints and different, we're very different.
Yeah.
Just in general, but the games that we like and the things that we enjoy, we end up having really great conversations.
That's awesome.
That's where it came from.
That's awesome, because one of the things I love about your show is, because for this one, it's pretty much like open season on anything, retro games, current games,
sure,
you name it, I want to talk about it in some way, shape, or form. Whereas for your show, it is one specific game.
Yes.
It is a specific game, and you guys go on that for about an hour, sometimes hour and a half. I want to say your Metroid Prime episode was an hour 20.
Sometimes we push past that. We're trying to whittle them down. We just keep talking, Yeah.
Oh, the main show, Fake Nerd Podcast, we started doing like an hour, then an hour and a half. Now, since quarantine happened and we can't really see each other all that much.
Yeah.
Our shows now range like 3.5 to 4 hours long sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I do all the editing, and I can tell you I used to watch a lot of DVDs back in the day when they had like director commentaries, and you'd always hear the director be like, I really didn't want to cut this scene. I really didn't want to cut this and that. And I understand how that feels now.
Oh yeah.
Parts where Jay and I will go on a little rant and stuff, and it's really good stuff, but I have to edit stuff out because it can't be too long.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want it to be too long. I think anywhere from an hour to 2 hours max, but hour and a half is ideal.
Yeah.
We try to do that, but yeah, we end up having to cut a lot. It's not easy to do that.
No.
Get rid of the good stuff.
No, we tried doing that, but then after a while we said no, because we love doing long podcasts. We love doing super deep dives and talking about this stuff.
Right.
So we just figured, I mean, if you're podcasting, do whatever the heck you want to do. It's your show. Do what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So I was going on that thing and I totally forgot. Damn. But yeah, so I absolutely love your guys' show. I'm really glad you're able to come on this. So now let's get into video game anniversaries. So Pat.
Yep.
We had Mario, Zelda, Metroid, and Pokemon. Sonic's anniversary is on the way. So we already had 4 big anniversaries.
A lot of heavy hitters.
Huge giants in the retro gaming community or in the circuit. But I want to first go into Mario's 35th anniversary, and because when it first came out, I was really excited about it. I was like, oh heck yeah, what are they gonna do for Mario's 35th? I watched the direct, and after the direct was done, I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait. This is gonna be awesome. And the more I thought about it, the more I think it's like, you know what? Nintendo kind of dropped the ball for Mario's 35th, because I remember for the 30th anniversary, they released Super Mario Maker, which was a huge deal, and even on the 25th anniversary, they re-released Super Mario All-Stars for the Nintendo Wii, but Nintendo hasn't really done a whole lot. Even with Zelda's 30th anniversary, if I remember right, Zelda didn't have a game announced. It was just the amiibo, and they completely swept Metroid under the rug.
As usual.
Yeah, as usual. So I want to know your thoughts on Mario's 35th anniversary. What are some of the things you liked and some of the things you didn't like?
Yeah, Nintendo, I have a love-hate relationship with Nintendo. I say that because I've been with Nintendo since my first gaming experience in my life was on an NES. And I want to say 1987 or 1988.
Okay.
Very young, maybe 3 or 4 years old. But that was what got me into gaming. I was an NES gamer. That's where I started.
Nice.
So Mario was the first game I ever played.
Oh, I was actually going to ask you what was the first Mario title you ever played.
Super Mario. We had the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt combo pack.
Oh, I got that in my drawer right now.
Yep. And I've got a couple copies of it, and I've got, that was a great way to get into games. I mean, Duck Hunt, playing with the Wii Zapper and all that stuff. We had a little tiny, 12, 13-inch rabbit ear TV. And but I remember my sister, I have, a couple older sisters, and one of them, she was like, hey, you want to come see, this Mario game? And I had never, this is the thing it's hard to explain to people, but I had never experienced anything that was like that before. I played with toys when I was a kid, but when I saw her holding this little rectangular controller and making this guy jump on the screen and hop on turtles, I was completely engrossed. And I remember being like, what? Like, my little brain just fried. And so Mario, I grabbed the controller from her and started playing it, and she, would help me play it. And I was just locked in from there. So I literally started my love for gaming with Mario. A lot of people have, but for me, it's a very personal thing. It was literally where my love for games just kicked right off, and I was maybe 4 years old.
Nice. I mean,
I love Mario.
No, don't be fooled. I mean, I love Mario too. Audio listeners, I know you can't see, but on my little counter here, I have all my a bunch of the Mario Wii games that are not Wii games, the Switch games. But longtime listeners of the Fake Nerd podcasts know that I'm a huge Sonic fan. Sonic was where I got my start.
I love Sonic too. I have an interesting relationship with Sonic as well. We had to grow up in the best time.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, when it comes to retro games, like what we call retro games now, because of stuff and being a kid on the playground when people were arguing about how much cooler Sonic was.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that, having those arguments in 1990, 1992, 3 and stuff. But with Mario, what I will say is I don't feel like Nintendo is at a point again where they were when they were on top back in the day, before Sega knocked them down a peg in the early 90s.
Yeah, and then PlayStation, of course, would come afterwards.
Right. They're at a point now to where they don't really have to do much. They don't have to do what people want them to do. And they've always marched to the beat of their own drum. They always have. They have never catered, to anyone, and they've always done their own thing, and that's worked out for them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at least recently. The GameCube, I love the GameCube, but wasn't super successful. We do same thing, but they've managed to stay alive and keep the stuff going. And Mario's always been that. Mario's always been, the mascot that they bring out and go like, guess what? We got a new Mario game. Check this out. And everybody's already ready to go. Okay. With this, they did that Switch release, which I did. I do have a Switch. I bought the Mario collection that had 64. Yeah, that one. I've got
this beautiful. I'm holding up my physical copy of Super Mario 3D All Stars. I mean, I got this when this was announced, and the very next day I went to GameStop and I paid for this thing in full because I'm a big proponent. I don't know if you are. I'm a huge proponent of physical games. I like having my games physical. And
I prefer it,
I prefer it too. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where me switching out the cartridges to play like Mario Kart, Smash, and Super Mario World, it's annoying, but at the same time, that's what we had to do back in the day. So it's muscle memory. But one of the things that really got me mad about that release, and I do agree with a lot of the internet on this one, is that those are just a little control tweaks here and there. They made the graphics a little crisper, but that was $60. Whereas you look at something like Crash Bandicoot, the Spyro Reignited trilogy, those are 40. And they're completely they are completely remastered. There's online, there's so much more stuff to it. This one only has the soundtracks that you can only listen to while the game is playing. Yeah.
It's bare bones.
Which
great games, but they're not even. I watched a video not long ago about, and I can't remember who it was, but he's a popular YouTuber, and he was talking about how kind of poor that release is, and how they cut a lot of corners and didn't really give us versions that they could have. If they had put even a slight, bit more effort into it, we could have gotten better versions of those games with different control options and all kinds of things, graphics options, up-resing.
Oh yeah,
it really do. I'm fine with it because I can play Mario 64, on the go. That's great. Awesome. But I was pretty disappointed with that. I thought they could have done so much more. They had already kind of, we already had Mario Odyssey. which is a great game, but they didn't really have anything in the pipeline to to really celebrate it. I thought they kind of dropped the ball as well.
Mm-hmm.
Could have done so much more. And honestly, they could have put more Mario games in that collection. Only putting was kind of insane to me. Like, awesome that we got Mario Galaxy, but why not put Mario Galaxy 2 in there?
Exactly. And
there were so many other things they could have done to make that package stand out more. And then in the menus and in with the extras and everything, they could have put in a little more effort, and given us more goodies and stuff like that that we used to get with these types of collections and stuff back in the day, which we don't really see a lot of that now. It's kind of bare bones. People are going to buy it. They know that. $60, they'll buy it. Nope. And it's true. They will. I bought it.
I bought it. I bought it too. I bought it day one partially because it was Super Mario 3D All Stars, and Gamer Confession. My friends on Fake Nerds know this, but I never played Super Mario 64 when I owned it in 64. When I got my 64, I didn't want it for Super Mario. I wanted it for Pokemon Stadium.
Gotcha.
I wanted it for Pokemon Stadium and for Mario Kart. And when I got my 64, those were like the first few games I got for that system. Because we'll get into Pokemon later because that is that's a franchise I literally grew up with since day one.
Yeah.
So, but looking back on the Mario 3D collection, because I was like blind as like, oh my god, I could finally play Mario 64 and not get an N64 because unfortunately my original console has been lost to time, which is a story for another day.
I still have my original N64 in box that I pre-ordered from Toys R Us and picked up on the day before launch day because to be early. So they still have it, and it's got the marking on the back on the receipt that shows the day before release.
Oh, you lucky bastard!
I know. I held on to it, man.
No, there are times where I wish I could go back in time to my younger self and start kicking him. It was like, hey, save these.
Me too. Yeah, I made a big mistake in college, and we can talk about that in a bit. I made a huge mistake in college, and I'm paying for that now. When new systems came out, like PS2, Xbox, and all that. Yeah.
No, I've made mistakes about because there are some retro games I owned when I was a kid, and then when I had to like get rid of some games, I got rid of them, and then as I got older, I was like, man, I really want to play that game again. And I can't find it, and then it was like, oh wait, I sold it.
Oh, it's like, you want that game that you love? Well, just drop $250 and you can have a loose cart.
Yeah, I just got Metroid Fusion is one of the games I recently got that I was trying to hunt down for forever. Yeah, because I got that game, but then I gave it away because I sold my Game Boy Advance, my Arctic White Game Boy Advance, because I got my SP, and I gave that to, and I just threw in Metroid Fusion for a friend because he was paying me $60 for my GBA.
Yeah, you don't think about it at the time,
Yeah, you don't.
Something you're like, it's fine. I played it. I'm good. I never knew that I was going to get to this point where I just became obsessive about rebuilding my collection. Well, beyond that, actually. Well beyond that at this point. My collection is getting huge. I love it. I absolutely love it now. And it's actually fun to go back and purchase those games that you may have, let someone have or sold or whatever, to rebuild is so much fun.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. It hurts in the wallet now because every time every time there's a trade show I love going to here in Southern California called Frankenstein's, I mention them a lot, and they have it's like a nerd swap meet essentially, where there's a bunch of comic books, video games, card games, a few sports memorabilia, you name it, it's probably there. And there are times where I know a few of the guys who run booths there for video games, and when I see some of the older N64 titles, especially if they're CID, then they're way up there in price. And I'm thinking, it's like, I remember when I got Mario Kart 64, I got the loose cart for $25. Now the loose cart is going for $60. Crap.
Yep. I luckily, I still have that. I think, I still have a couple of my N64 like prized possessions. Have a CIB collector's edition Ocarina of Time. Cartridge is still in the plastic.
What? Still?
Yeah, I'll show you if you want to see it. I've got that, and I've got a Majora's Mask collector's in box, and I've got Super Mario 64 complete in box. A lot of them are my original boxes that I still had. I first bought the game, and they were in condition in the attic at my parents' house. My mom told me a couple years ago, she's like, "Did you want these?" And she's got a stack of mint N64 boxes, and I was like, "Yes, I do." And so she gave them to me, and then a couple of the games I didn't have because I'd sold them years ago and I had started to rebuild, so I just re-got the games. But the Zelda one is It's unsealed, but the cartridge is in the plastic.
Oh, that's still pretty mint.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
oh yeah, I could never part with that.
Oh no, I wouldn't want you to. I won't want you to. But
same with the 64, Mario 64. Like that is another game that is super important to me. So that's staying in the box too.
I mean, even though I have the Switch version, I still want the original cartridge because once I finally do, like that's like one of my bucket lists for this year is to get, even though because my space is limited. I've been recently collecting a lot of handheld games because the carts are a lot smaller and they're a lot easier to put away.
Which Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, what?
Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, and Nintendo DS. I'm looking for like the top games for me that I'm hunting for are for Game Boy and Nintendo DS. And when I say
I just picked up 3 DS games. Let me show them to you.
Nice. And
I'm gonna roll away a lot and show you this stuff.
Now, and when I say Game Boy, I mean all of Game Boy. I'm talking from the OG Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance. Since this beautiful little thing right here, my Game Boy Advance can play everything.
I was actually looking for one of those. I just got the complete Castlevania DS collection.
Dude.
So I know Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. I have them all now.
That is awesome.
I know, super excited. I love Castlevania. So
I actually never really got into Castlevania. I tried, not to say that I haven't tried, but I think because I have my NES Mini and my SNES Mini hooked up right now, so I could play Castlevania 1, skip 2, and play 4. Because
you know what's funny? My first Castlevania game was Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest. That's the one we had.
Oh,
up, and I loved it, but we had a subscription to Nintendo Power.
Oh yeah,
I had an original copy of the first issue of Nintendo Power that got torn up years later by my younger brother, but I had a mint copy of that. So I hate that I don't have it anymore. But we used to get the strategy guides in those, you know, and there was a hotline, and my friend who used to call the hotline, and so he would come over and play Simon's Quest with me.
Yeah.
And we would have to, the game, it's one of those games, it was we called it a Nintendo Power game. You couldn't beat it unless you had a Nintendo Power guide.
Ooh.
That's how they made those games. They would make it to where you couldn't possibly figure out what to do unless you had a guide.
Yeah.
And so we had to do that. But that game, I get why people hate it. It's not a great Castlevania game, but it was my first Castlevania game ever, which is pretty wild. And I still ended up loving the series later on.
Hey, if you love a game, even if the others don't, you like what you like. I may not like the game, but I'm not.
A lot of it's nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Because I'm pretty sure that there's a few games that are in my collection that I absolutely love, and even though I know they're not the best, but
of course,
like, why this game has gone off? I was like, I love it though.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. You know, you'll have games you're just like, man, I have such great memories of this game, and it makes me feel so good. People are like, that game sucks.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, like, I've played the game, it's trash. And I'm like, no, it's not trash. You're trash.
No, attack the game. Don't attack. One of my motto is, one of the mottos on the FakeNerd podcast is don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. Yeah, don't gatekeep either. Like, I hate people that do that. Or I just hate that. I won't say I hate people that do that, but I don't like that behavior. You know, when people are kind of like telling you what you're supposed to love and what you're not supposed to love. That happens all the time now. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. Resident Evil so much, and Silent Hill. But the Resident Evil community is brutal. They gate like crazy because there's so many different titles. But people will tell you, like, oh, if you don't just play the first 3 over and over and over again, you're not a Resident Evil fan.
Well, that sucks because the only Resident Evil
that's how a lot of people are. And they say that 4 sucks. And, this happens in a lot of communities that have been around for a long time. There's a lot of different, games. Mario, Zelda, all those. It's the same thing. People will tell you, like, you're not a real fan unless you played this one.
No, screw that noise.
You love what you love.
Yeah. The only Resident Evil, speaking of Resident Evil, the only Resident Evil game I wanted and I played from beginning to end was RE4.
No one can blame you. It's a great game.
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah. But a lot of Resident Evil fans will crap on it constantly.
Well, yeah, because I tried playing, because Resident Evil can't, like I said, tangents are welcome and encouraged here on the show.
Yeah, sure,
Because I got Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, because it was a PlayStation Plus free game, and I started playing it. It's great, but those camera angles, when you go into different rooms, I just hate. And when that first zombie comes at you, I keep missing. And I'm like, why won't you die?
Fun fact about that, too, is that the original Resident Evil was made to be the American version, not the Japanese version. The American version was made programmed in a way to make it harder for people to beat in on purpose, like the aiming and everything. So you couldn't rent it and beat it in a playthrough. You'd be more likely to buy it.
Oh, kind of like what they did with Disney's Aladdin and Lion King.
Lion King, yep, exactly the same thing. They actually wanted to program it to where all of the item boxes would not be universal. To where you only have to go to one item box, and you'd have to go all the way back to get an item you left in this other room. They wouldn't be universal, but they didn't do that. But they almost did, and I'm glad they didn't, because I don't know if Resident Evil would have lasted if they had done that.
I don't think so either.
But yeah, that's and I have an original long box version of the first release of Resident Evil.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the original copy. Which those PS1 long boxes, man, I love them so much.
Yeah, man. I think I saw because the PS1 came out in 94. No,
gosh, you know what? I forget all the time. It's 94, I think, or 95.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's 94.
Yeah, 94 and 64 came out in 96. So I was I was 3 turning 4 years old when the PlayStation came out. And when the N64 was hitting big, I thought that's when the PlayStation came out. Or did it come out? Or did it come out in 95?
I always forget if it's 94, 95, because I remember those years, because I remember hearing about the Saturn and the PlayStation, but I can't ever remember if it was 94 or 95. That's one of those years I always get wrong.
Hold on, I'm just 94. Oh wait, no,
94. Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah, December 3rd, 1994.
Yeah.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What else was I gonna go on? Oh yeah, so back to Mario and how. So one of the other problems I had with the whole Mario thing, especially with Mario 3D All Stars, and even this little nostalgia trap, because I actually went out and found the Super Mario Bros. Game & Watch. I don't know if you have this.
Very cool. No, I don't. But that's super cool.
Well, it is a complete and utter nostalgia trap, and I absolutely love it. I have a nickname with my friends. They call me Nostalgia's Bitch, and they are not wrong.
I feel like that too, for myself.
Yeah, they are not wrong. But like as I said earlier, we're recording this before March 31st, which is where that game and that Game & Watch are going to be. They're going to end production on it. So whatever's out there is out there. Good luck. And I just
it's like the NES Classic all over again.
Yeah, it's the NES Classic all over again. It's also the Disney Vault mentality. It's creating a false demand, which I mean, yes, I bought into it because I love these games and I love this homage to history. But at the same time, it's like just because with this Game & Watch, because in the original line of the Game & Watches, there is a Zelda one, and with Zelda's 35th anniversary coming out, they already announced Skyward Sword HD, which cool. I'm probably gonna get it because I never played the original on the Wii, but. I
was really disappointed they didn't do more for that, but we can talk about that.
Yeah. Well, of course, they said they're going to announce more during summer, which is around the time that the E3 is going to happen. So, I mean, I'm guessing that if they did this with Mario and they slapped Mario, Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 2, well, I kind of wish they slapped Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3, a complete collection on that thing because they
totally got to fit on there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also have a feeling that if they release a Zelda one or a Metroid Game & Watch with the original NES versions of those games, those are probably also going to sell like hotcakes. But I fear that Nintendo's going to keep like the limited thing, which makes me mad because luckily you can still get that at a store. I went to a store recently and they had a bunch in the console. It's like it's not like hung up where the toys are. It's where the consoles are. You have to go to the consoles to find it. But and then when I went to a trade show, I saw a friend of mine. One seller had it used, CIB still, but used for $40 because MSRP is $50. And then I went to another place; they had it sealed, selling for $100.
Criminal.
Yeah, so it's like Nintendo, come on, throw us a bone here.
They don't. Once they've done their release and gotten. Again, it's why I have a love-hate relationship with them. I mean, again, it's a business, and they have to do. I understand. Yeah, understand, and I want them to stay around because I love them. I also hate the way sometimes they treat their fans.
Oh yeah, totally.
They do. It's funny because it's like you say, the Skyward Sword is going to come out, and I'm probably going to get that, and I'm sitting here thinking like, do I really want to get Skyward Sword? Yeah, I'll probably get it. Because it's that's how they get you. Yeah, you want to play Skyward Sword again? I'm like, no, I actually want to play these other ones again, but sure. Like that's just how I feel. Nothing against Skyward Sword. It's fine. But I think that there's others that I would rather see for sure. I mean,
yeah, the Mario one I was totally fine with putting down 60 bones for, even though I kind of wish it was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. It should have been a $30 game max to me.
Yeah. I would have been fine with 40. I would have been okay with $40.
Yeah. I could have even seen that, but 60 was a little.
Yeah, 60 was still yikes. But of course, I still paid for it because I'm like that. But those games I never played before, and I wanted to play those games. I just
I had less of an excuse. I have less of an excuse, right? I can pop my Mario 64 and my N64 anytime I want, and play it that way.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be able to play it. The convenience is a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
My Switch, like my modern consoles are downstairs, like on my big TV, like my Xbox, my PlayStation, and my Switch are all down there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a convenience to that, just being to say like, well, you know what, I kind of want to, sit down on the couch and play some Mario Sunshine. Okay, well, I have to lug down. My TV now, my modern TV, I can't even hook up unless I get some special cables. Like I can't hook up my old systems to that TV.
Right.
Getting to that point where most TVs are not going to have those hookups anyway.
Yeah.
The Switch gives you that convenience.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of thought about it that way. And that's like, maybe that's just how I justified it in my head. I'm like, yeah, I'll spend $60, $20 a game for these games that I already have, so that I can play them conveniently on my couch. But I'm, at the same time, I'm like, it's a little much for what you get. So.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm lucky because I have in my house, I have this neat little gaming loft. This is where I do recording for my podcast for this, and also where I play my games because I have my PS4 up here. We do have a TV downstairs, and there's a spot there that's reserved for the PlayStation 5 when I eventually get it.
Gotcha.
But luckily, my TV up here still has the composite plug-in, so I can still plug in stuff there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky I still have that. I still have that plug-in, but I might just have it modded so it could have an HDMI output because apparently that's really easy to do.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of adapters lately because I have a setup up here. This is a work in progress. This is the game room, and I just got everything recarpeted not long ago.
Nice.
And I've got LED stuff I want to do, but I have actually been buying older CRT TVs. I have one that's a 27-inch that I got from a guy for $15.
Nice.
I found on Facebook Marketplace. And then I bought one on eBay. It's a little DVD combo.
Oh.
And I've got the N64 hooked up to that right now, but I love it. It's like a little, I love the CRT. I love scan lines. I'm playing games that way. So I'm trying to get some of those to have them around in case, when one inevitably dies, I'll have a backup. And they're getting more expensive because people are realizing that retro gamers want them.
Yeah.
So if you find one local around here, luckily where I live, if I go outside of the city where I live, there are a lot of rural areas where people have this stuff that'll give them away. They're not looking, they don't know about retro gaming. They don't know about video gaming. So it's like they will give you a CRT TV for $10. Whereas maybe where you are, and I don't know, but you probably run into the situation where a lot of people know that they're looking for that stuff. So that's tough because they'll be like, yeah, I've got a CRT TV that's on its last leg. You can have it for $200. That's tough. So but it's also getting to the point where I want to play these older consoles the way that I remember them.
Right.
And hooking them up, unless you have an HDMI option like what you're talking about. I have a HDMI option for my GameCube that has changed everything. I got to an HD TV and it looks amazing. And it's one of those, what's it called? Insurrection Industries makes it. I forget the actual name of it, but it's it's Carby or something like that. But totally worth it. So trying to convert as many of those consoles as I can to play on an HD TV, but the older ones, I don't really go for the HD mods for those because they don't look as great, and I'd rather just play them as they used to be, like on a scanline TV.
Yeah. Because like I said earlier, space is a very big thing for me because I have very limited space, which is why I'm buying a whole lot of handheld games because the carts for handheld games, they're nice, small, and tiny.
They're easy. They're easy to collect. Yeah.
Easy to collect. I don't need them CIB. Well, the DS, I'm kind of picky about. I really want DS games CIB. But GBA games, I don't care if it's loose or in the box. That's fine. I used to throw away the boxes anyway.
Yeah, because I've been looking into collecting GBA as well. Because I missed the boat on the GBA. That came out around the time the GameCube came out. I did get a GameCube, but I was starting college. And I was more interested in Metroid Prime and less interested in Metroid Fusion right, at the time, because I was at that age. And so I didn't have a Game Boy Advance. I'd only recently started playing those games, and I have a 3DS, and that's what I use for my DS games. But I've been wanting to collect GBA, but I was looking for a couple of games, and I would love to have them complete in box. But God, the games that I really want are super expensive.
Which ones do you want?
Well, the one I've been trying to get, and I don't know if I can justify spending this much, but it's Aria of Sorrow. For Aria of Sorrow for Game Boy, complete in box is going to be over $300.
Ooh.
So, might have to get a loose cart.
Yeah. No, the game
want to do that though, and I think I could justify doing that if I can figure out a way to display carts. And I've seen some people like on Etsy will make like GameCube shelves and stuff for just the loose carts. So I thought about doing that, and if I can do that and display them well, then I may just forego the boxes.
Yeah, because right now I only have one Game Boy game that's CIB, and it's Pitfall: The Mind Adventure.
I just picked up Pitfall: The Mind Adventure CIB on Super Nintendo.
Now, so
that's funny.
So the reason why I picked up Pitfall, because I bought this off a friend of mine at Frankensons, because a while ago, last time I saw him before I bought Pitfall, he was kind enough to gift me a Pac-Man amiibo that I was looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, he gave me this cute little guy for free.
Very cool.
He like just straight gave it to me, and even though I had the money on, even though I had the money on me, he was like, "It's going to a good home. I know you really want this because I love Pac-Man.
That's good. I
absolutely love Pac-Man." So I saw this. I figured, you know what, I want to help him out. I want to support him. So I got this, and I actually had this game on the Windows 95.
I did too. That's the first time I played it, was on Windows.
Yeah, it was my brother's title. So it was my brother's game. His game was Pitfall. My game was Sonic CD. And I thought, it's on the GBA. The GBA is a decently powerful system. It can do a lot of really cool 32-bit games.
Right.
So I started playing it, and as I'm playing, I'm like, where's the sound? Except when Harry jumps, I'm like, because this game was completely CIB, completely sealed. The box has some damage to it because it's been thrown around a little bit. But then I look into it, and I'm like, and everyone on YouTube saying, yeah, the Game Boy Advance port of Pitfall sucks. So I'm like, well, damn.
You ran into that a lot. You would look into, and even, I had an original Game Boy. I still have an original Game Boy that I loved. But
speaking of OG Game Boys, here's my original Game Boy Pocket.
That's your original? Let me see. I'll show you. Here's my original. Hold on.
This is the first. So, audio listeners, I'm holding up my green, beautiful Game Boy Pocket that I've had since 1997.
I love the Game Boy Pocket. The Game Boy Pocket is an awesome, underrated system.
And inside it is my original red version.
Very nice.
I had my very first red version. I have my brother's blue, because I got red, my brother got blue. But before we get into Pokemon, hold on, let me see your Game Boy first. I want to see it.
Oh yeah, now I was going to show you this one.
Oh, you rat!
Yeah, this actually still has the customer receipt right there.
Audio listeners.
This wasn't my original receipt, but this is a complete in box original Game Boy, and it had the Tetris pack in. So, I got this from a guy at a gas station.
What?
Yeah.
A gas station?
Some guy was selling this. I used to get on like Offer Up and stuff like that. This was years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years when I just started, or maybe 6 years ago when I first started collecting again. This guy, and it's actually still sealed right there. I didn't even realize. It's open right here, but this guy was like, "Yeah, I'm selling this for." He wanted like $20 for it, and I was like, "Yeah, me at this so and so gas station." I didn't think he was going to do it, and he showed up, and I gave him $20, and he gave me this. This thing is in almost mint condition. It's insane.
You bought a complete in box Game Boy, the original 1989 brick, complete with Tetris for $20.
Yep, absolutely did.
I am trying to not cuss you out.
And the guy said it was his. It was his. He just kept it in good condition. And it's so funny. Like the proof of purchase is where it's perforated, where you take this off and send it in. And the serial number, the date, 1992 is on there.
Ooh.
So for the receipt, but yeah, like you never know what you're going to find. And actually, around here where I live, you don't have a lot of game stores. We few retro game stores.
Right.
Well, I mean retro game stores. So we have a few, but compared to somewhere like, I have a friend who lives in Seattle, And he's like, yeah, we have a retro game store like every other block. He's like, they're everywhere. So it's hard for us here from where I live to find that stuff. And you, once in a while, you'll get on like a marketplace or something, and somebody who doesn't know what they have, doesn't care, they don't look into it. They're just like, yeah, I've got this Sega Nintendo, that I'm selling. $5, it's yours. And it might have a little dust on it, but I mean, you might find something super rare because these people like pull it out of their attic and they're like, here's that Vidya that I don't want anymore. And it's this kind of situation, he didn't care, honestly. And I was going to tell him, be like, you sure you don't want a little more? And he was like, nah, I don't want it. $20. It's like, okay, sure thing. No problem.
I mean, if someone offered me a brick, original Game Boy brick for $20 CIB, I'm like, sure, take it.
Most things CIB, I'll spend $20 on.
Yeah, like, I mean, they ask for a system like that because even a regular unmodded version can go for around $80 loose, and that's been used up to high heaven. Man, I am jealous. Yeah. No, not jealous. I'm envious of you, good sir. I'm trying to make this into a good, lasting friendship or start of a beautiful friendship. But you show me all these beautiful things. I'm like, oh, you son of a.
Like Patrick, when you get old and you decide that it's time to let all your stuff go and you're going to pass it down, just remember me, right?
Just remember.
Here's my address. Send it to me. I do think, a lot of this is preservation to me, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the having your own little museum. And I want people to be able to walk into this room when it's all done and be like, what? Like you have all these games. Like, let's boot up the Wii. Let's play Mario Kart, whatever. And just kind of have those feelings of nostalgia come back. And a lot of my friends, we're in our 30s, we're in our mid to late 30s. And so when I show this stuff to friends that I, haven't seen in a while, or somebody comes and visits or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, you see the look on their face when they see stuff I have, and they're like, I remember this game. That's why probably you as well, you collect this stuff because you want to have it for yourself. It's a comfort. It's nostalgia, obviously, which I am very guilty of catering to my nostalgia all the time. But it's also being able to share that with people, and especially a different generation that might not realize how great these games were. And still
my nephew, I remember my stepsister, she called me up one day when Super Mario 3D World came, or 3D All-Stars came out. And she asked me, is like, hey, what's the deal with this old Mario game? And I told her, I was like, oh, they're re-releases of 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, which were huge hits on their respective systems. And because she asked me, do you think, because my nephew got into video games, I want to say partially because of me, because he lived with me for a brief time. And with my 3DS, I was having I was charging it out in the open because I was going to play it. And then I come back and I see my little nephew, who's like, he was 4 years old at the time. So I see him with my 3DS and he's playing Mario Kart. And I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, part of me is proud, but the other part of me, because he's 4, and I remember when I was 4, I was very destructive. So I'm like, hey, Austin, what you doing there? He's like, playing. Like, he knew he was in trouble. I didn't yell. I was like, hey, if you ever want to play with Uncle Ben's toys, just let Uncle Ben know first.
Right. I would be the same way. And like, obviously I want kids to, like, I have, my sisters have kids, and my nephew, or my younger nephew, he's really into a lot of that stuff, and he's starting to get into it. And so I definitely want to share that with him. Like, I want him to come in and be like, oh, what's this game, and play it. But I'm also the kind of person where if I walked in the room and they were like, if they were holding my Game Boy box and trying to open it up, I'd be like, oh my God, like, it's that in your head, like, oh God, like, please don't break anything. Please don't tear anything.
Yeah.
With my supervision, sure. Yeah, no problem. But I understand what you're saying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I want kids someday as well, but then because my friends, they see the stuff I'm collecting. They're like, are you gonna let your kids play with this stuff? I'm like, well, eventually, yeah, because I want to put my kids. I mean, the PlayStation 7 might be out when me and my wife, or my girlfriend now, when we decide, like, okay, they're old enough to get into video games, but I want to be that person who's like, okay, here's the NES, here's the Super Nintendo, and then go from there. Yeah, try to get them. I mean, maybe if they like video games, cool, but if they don't like them, then I'm not going to force it on them.
Yeah, you'd hope so. At the same time, maybe they won't be, but we also live in a time where games are super popular.
Oh yeah,
kids are playing them. So whether or not they appreciate the stuff that we liked, I don't know.
Yeah,
there is a big retro scene, and maybe they will.
I mean, I'm not going to be that parent at first, when I first started getting back into retro game collecting, I was going to be that. I thought to myself, yeah, my kids are going to learn the old stuff before they can play new stuff. I was like, nah, if they're interested, I'm going to, I mean, if they just call this dad's hobby, then sure, let them call it dad's hobby. But they're into it, yeah, sure. But although I will train them in the ways of the original Super Smash Bros. Before I show them Ultimate.
Absolutely.
Gosh,
as you should.
Yeah.
As you should.
So you mentioned Metroid earlier, and I really want to talk about Metroid. So, so Metroid, 35 years, great milestone. Where the damn hell is Metroid Prime 4?
Yeah. So Metroid,
because you mentioned Metroid Prime earlier as one of your games when you got, so you've been around since the 80s, so you've been there for Metroid. I wasn't. Metroid, my first rendition or my first intro into Metroid and even into The Legend of Zelda was through Super Smash Bros.
Okay.
And I thought, and my very first Metroid game was Metroid Fusion.
Okay.
Because I got the Game Boy, I heard Metroid Fusion was coming out. Everyone was talking about Metroid Fusion.
Yeah.
Because I used to watch G4 a lot when I was a kid. I watched X Play, and then and when they announced, it's like, yo, Metroid Fusion, that's gonna be a really cool Game Boy game. I got for Christmas, and when I opened up the
game,
it is. And when I started reading the booklet, it said, Samus Aran, she. I'm like, she?
Oh yeah, we got exposed to that. So I didn't have the original Metroid on NES. My first exposure, I knew what it was. My first game, the first Metroid game I ever played was Metroid 2: Return of Samus on Game Boy.
Nice.
I was obsessed with that game. And then I also played Super Metroid.
Speaking of Metroid 2, hold on.
Yep.
I gotta show you something. So I got this. This isn't the Metroid 2 box. This is the Metroid Samus Returns 3DS special with the reversible cover.
I love that cover.
Yeah. I did not know this was a reversible cover until I put the game into my 3DS. I saw it backwards.
That cover is awesome. That's actually, I had, I don't have it now, but I had an original copy of Metroid 2, and I love the cover of that game.
Oh yeah,
this one of my favorite Metroid covers.
I mean, so I have like the actual box in my little cupboard, right in my dresser drawer right here. That's where I store my games. But when I saw this, I'm like, this has to go on the shelf, and it includes the typo. The typo is on the back of the box. I know,
and I love it so much. That's actually to be fair, my first exposure to Metroid was in a Nintendo Power magazine before I played Metroid 2. So I knew who Samus was, and I actually remember seeing, I think it was in a Nintendo Power, but there was the code, the Justin Bailey code, where people who had beaten Metroid, the helmet comes off and you see that it's a woman. I just remember thinking, like, at the time I don't know, like, even as a kid, I didn't think anything of it. It wasn't one of those things where I was like super surprised or whatever. I just thought it was cool because I assumed that Samus was a boy the whole time.
So did I. Because when I first saw Samus in Super Smash Bros. As a playable character, I thought, that's like, that person's like Mega Man because they have a cannon for an arm.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
You just assume.
Yeah, and then
the armor and the shape, but then when you see that, you're like, whoa, that's really cool. Like I never would have known it. It was a cool like reveal.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people. And so I've always loved Samus as a character. I talked about this. I did a podcast with The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog. Some guys out in Australia. Great guy. Check them out, by the way. Really cool couple of guys. But I talked with Adam on his podcast before we did our Metroid Prime episode. Episode with him right before about Metroid Prime, and we talked about it, and we talked about Samus being like as a character, and even though she doesn't get a ton of characterization in most games, we won't count Other M because that's
a different conversation.
Yeah. And I don't mind Other M. I think it's a perfectly fine game, but it's not Samus to me, right?
Yeah.
But Samus to me, I kind of like. It's like the Master Chief thing. Like I love Master Chief because you never see his face. He keeps things very simple. He doesn't say a whole lot. And I like that kind of strong, silent type that you get to that has mystery to them. And that's one of the reasons I love Samus. You don't know a whole lot about her, and she's just that strong, silent, badass type, and I like that about her. And I think But Metroid is a criminally underrated series in Nintendo's
It
life. It
it
really is.
it totally is, because Metroid. I also write freelance for oldschoolgamermagazine.com, and even though I haven't really been into the Metroid series, I'm trying to go through all the Metroid games, not like Metroid Prime, but Metroid 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is
Okay.
So I found Metroid Zero Mission for the GBA. I played it, I beat it, I absolutely
Great game.
love it.
Great game.
It is
Great
amazing.
remake.
It is so good.
Mhm.
And I'm about to start Metroid 2 Samus Returns on my 3DS. But you're right. Metroid is one of those things that a lot of people love, and I want more Metroid. I love
Me too.
after playing Zero Mission, because when I
Mhm.
first started playing Fusion, I absolutely loved it. I had no idea what was going on. I was
Yeah.
trying, because I was in elementary school when that game came out, and I got to this one part where I was stuck and I couldn't figure out where to go.
Yeah.
But that whole aspect of exploring, and it's like
Yeah.
when it first chucks me into the game, I'm like, wait, is this level 1? Because I was, as a kid, I
Yeah.
thought, oh, you still have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then here's Metroid. It's like, no, you have to go find it.
Yeah, that's what I love about Metroid. Metroid, and that's what inspired the later Castlevania games like Symphony of the Night. It's Metroid. It's that kind of thing where you have a map and you have all these places that, and we talked about it on our podcast too, because they do it in Metroid Prime as well. But that idea that you see something and you go, well, I can't get there yet, but I know I can at some point. And I love the way that they progress. And I was actually, Jay had never played. I think he had played Metroid Zero Mission, but he had never really played other Metroid games. And I was like, I've been telling him for years. I was like, you've got to play Metroid Prime. You got to give it a shot and see what all the fuss is about, because I personally believe it's one of the best Metroid games, period.
Yeah, I've also never played Metroid Prime, and even when I had a Wii and the Metroid Prime trilogy came out for the Wii, I wanted it, but unfortunately, when the Wii came out, I was in high school, and when my parents were not anti-video games, I mean, they got us video games for birthdays and Christmas, and very rarely between birthdays and Christmas or other big things during the year, like maybe there's a sale, or if I got really good grades on my report cards, they'd be like, okay, we'll go get you this game that you really want.
Right.
So the Metroid Prime trilogy, that's one of the games I hope they do remake for the Switch.
I hope so too, and I want. I'm a product of my time too, and I love the Wii. I really do. I've new appreciation for the Wii, right? But I want there to be an option for not having to do motion controls.
Button. Well, you're kind of like with Skyward Sword, where it's button only, where they use the. I'm not
against it.
Yeah, I'm not against it either, but I'm pretty sure since Metroid Prime 1 and 2, they were all controller based. I'm pretty sure that if they do decide to port these games, because I have a feeling they're going to do something for E3 this year. It's been how many years since Metroid Prime 4 was announced? I want to say they're going to be like, okay, here's the remakes, or here's the re-releases, and Metroid Prime 3 has button controls. You don't have to use the gyro.
That's what I'm curious if they would do that. And I wonder if they'll just, because again, I mean, I grew up, or excuse me, when I was in college and played that game, I loved the way that it felt. And Jay played it on GameCube. He didn't play the Wii version. Adam from Good Bad Backlog did. Was an interesting conversation, because I like motion controls at certain times. Right. But for Metroid, I want to have the option to play with a controller. But do I really, and this kind of circles back into the conversation we were having here. Do I really think Nintendo's going to put that effort in to actually give us those options? No, I don't. I really don't, especially for Metroid. I don't think they will. I would love it if they did, and I think that they should, and I think that I want to be able to pick up my Switch Pro controller and sit down and play Metroid Prime that way.
Me too.
If they were to do that, especially, Metroid Prime 2 needs more attention. That game is, I understand why some people don't like it, but that's a really cool game, and deserves more attention. And then Corruption, it was built though to be a motion control game. They put in a lot of gimmicks to use the Wiimote with. So I don't know if they would put in the hours and the time that they need to put in to change that. That's why I don't think that'll happen, Ben. I wish that it would, and I really hope that it will. But if I can at least play 1 and 2, with a controller, I'll be happy. But do I think that's going to happen? No.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, I would be happy for Nintendo just to release any other stuff Metroid related, because I can, thankfully, I've hunted down Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid. I hunted down Zero Mission, Fusion, and Samus Returns.
Yeah.
I hunted those down. Would I love the original Game Boy copy of Metroid 2? Of course I would.
Yeah.
But I hunted down those things, and now I have 2 different ways to play Super Metroid. I have it on my SNES Mini, and I have it through the Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, I love the SNES Mini.
Oh, once I saw that Secret of Mana was going to be released for that, I'm like, instant, I am buying. I actually waited outside in Target at 5:00 in the damn morning for it.
Yeah, I got one a little bit later, got lucky and didn't have to pay a ton for it.
Nice.
But I actually modded mine. So I've got a lot of games on it, but what I love about that console is that it's an easy way to hook up a Super Nintendo, play it with, you can turn on the scan lines if you want, but it's easy to play, and a great way to collect a lot of those games and have them just play. I own most of the games that I have on there, but I want to be able to easily access them and play them, because not all of it is collecting, because there's no way I can play all the games I have.
Oh yeah, me too.
No way. There's not enough time left in my life to play all the games that I have, right? And I know that, but a lot of it's the collecting aspect. I want to have copies of the games, but I love those mini. And I don't have an NES Mini. I actually missed the boat. Wasn't able to get one, but I'm glad that I have a Super NES Mini and a Genesis Mini.
Yeah, I got the Genesis Mini for Christmas when the year it came out, and you should have seen my face, because one of my best friends, he gave it to me. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I think I know what this is, and then I rip open the paper and I see it, and I yell, Sega!
Yeah. You know what though? They missed a couple of things too. Like, where's the Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles?
I heard there's like some legal action, or there's like legal troubles with Sonic 3, which I kind of call BS, because as much as Sonic 2 is one of my favorite of the Genesis games, Sonic 3 and Knuckles is fan-friggin-tastic.
Sonic 3 is great. 2 is my personal favorite, but 3 is a great game.
Yeah, I grew up playing CD thanks to the Windows 95 port. So I played the PC port of Sonic CD because I never owned it. Like, that is technically my first real Genesis.
Really?
Yeah. For our first anniversary, my girlfriend was kind of to buy me the At Games Genesis.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and then
those poor things.
When you see it on the store for $40, you think,
oh man, yeah.
I was excited.
Sega did their own though.
No,
and then Sega did their own, because.
And then I plugged it in, and I heard the sound I booted up Sonic the Hedgehog. That was the first game I played, and even I was like,
the audio is awful.
I was like, yikes.
Yeah. They get you. They were. I think at the time Sega was like, yeah, sure, make it. Who cares? But then they realized, I don't know, Sega's doing their best right now, and I think they've made moves. But did you said you started with Sonic, right?
I did. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that was the first, as far as I can recall.
Okay.
That was the very first video game I have ever played. I've always loved Sonic the Hedgehog. When I was my next door neighbor, he had a Genesis when I lived in Marietta, because that's where my brother was born. Okay. And my next door neighbor, he had Genesis, so I played at his house. Okay. And then the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon was out, and my parents got me. Funny enough, they got me this little trinket from this little Sonic the Hedgehog Happy Meal toy.
I had some of those. I think
this is my original. Yeah, this is my original toy that I've had. Awesome. I'm going to be buried with this damn thing.
That is really funny. Man, that's another thing they used to do, and I can't remember if those were at like Burger King or where those were. I think they were Burger King, but
that one was McDonald's.
Was it McDonald's? Okay, I had the one that, and we would take these to school. Kids would have them at school, and I had one that was Tails, and it had like a little thing you would hold, and Tails's tail was a helicopter, a little circular helicopter, and you pull the thing and you'd fly.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Yeah, and I think I may have one of those, but I just don't know where it is. It's probably my parents' house. But yeah, Sonic, man, I was a Nintendo kid, so when Genesis came out, my next door neighbor had one. Oh. And I used to go over, and But he was one of those kids that like, there were kids that you'd have like in the neighborhood that'd be like, come on over, let's play games, man. Let's just have a great time. And they'd let you play. There, so you'd have that kid that was like, yeah, you can play for 10 minutes and I'm going to shut it off. Like that kind of thing. And he was kind of like that, where he knew that I wanted to play it, but he liked the idea of being in control. And so he would like, I'd get to play, Sonic. And I was absolutely just mesmerized by Sonic the first time. I wanted a Genesis. My first Sonic game that I ever owned was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for Game Gear.
Oh, wow.
The console I ever got was a Game Gear. I still have mine, but that was the Master System version, and it's not very good. It's not bad. It's just not good.
No, I had one too. I had a Game Gear. I bought it completely secondhand.
Okay.
There was a used game store in my hometown that we used to go to a lot, and they had the Sega Game Gear, and I thought, a portable Sega, because I didn't know it existed at the point, because my very first Sega console was a Sega Dreamcast, and I got that after like I think Sega decided
to Dreamcast.
Oh, me
too.
The Dreamcast. My first, I got Christmas morning Sonic Adventure 2. Like I knew Christmas Eve. That was a really good Christmas that year because we got a lot of presents, my brother and I.
Yeah.
And because normally the rule is open one present on Christmas Eve, the rest on Christmas morning. That year, my parents were like, no, you can open more. So
that's cool.
They bought me the Sega All-Stars version of Crazy Taxi, and I opened it, and I knew what I was going to get because there's a Dreamcast game with the third-party controller. And I was like,
you knew at that point, there was no question. I got a Dreamcast for Christmas the year after it came out. So I got mine at the end of 2000, and then they got shut down not long after that. So that was a bummer.
Yeah, that still makes me sad.
But I have a couple of Dreamcasts. I still have my original Dreamcast box. I'm glad I held on to that. My original Dreamcast, the laser died in it years ago, but I rescued it with a Terra Onion mode.
You were smart because
so I've given it new life, and I have another Dreamcast that the laser still works and it works fine. But I wanted to keep my original that my parents got me. I think I got that one in 2000. It's 2000, I think. But it's still turned on. The laser just didn't work. So now I've got, an SD card or a hard drive in there.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the Dreamcast, loved that console. Played the hell out of Sonic Adventure.
Oh, me too.
Awesome game. I love that game. But
Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, those were the games I went to the most. But you're lucky because you decided to get yours fixed. I had my Dreamcast for years, and then one of my best friends, I went before coronavirus, he and I would have these retro game nights where we would just go to one of our houses. Yeah. We would bring a bunch of, mostly it would be our Game Boys. And our Game Boy, I would bring my Game Boys, and like we'd just sit down and just play Pokemon and just talk to each other. Or we would play one of our consoles. And I decided to bring my Dreamcast with me one day because he's never played a Dreamcast before. We plug it in, I put in Sonic Adventure, I hit the on button, and nothing happens. We check the connections 3 times, and I'm like, and I realized my Dreamcast died. Yep. So unfortunately, instead of thinking I can get this fixed, I'm thinking it's dead, never gonna work again. I donate the console to a Goodwill, and I sell the games. I know, and I sell the games thinking, I could probably just get these games digitally. They should be out now. Well, I'm an idiot. No, they're not. And after the N64, the next console I want to re-get and regrow my collection of is the Dreamcast. And I'm also willing to put down some money because my friends, they swear by Power Stone. I've never played Power Stone.
Oh, yeah. Power Stone's great. That was one that Jay and I, so what we would do, these are days that he and I reminisce about a lot, but when we were in high school, he lived in a neighborhood, suburban neighborhood, not far from where I grew up. And, I would go usually like after school, I'd get in my 89 Ford Bronco and head over to his house, and we would go. They had a garage that was converted into like a rec room, and there were couches and carpet, and their very first instance of a PC that had cable internet that was wild at the time. And then he had a Dreamcast, and he had Power Stone.
Ooh.
We would play Power Stone, Power Stone 2. When it came out, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater to death. We played a lot of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Sonic Adventure, and what are the other ones? Well, we play Soul Calibur. We played Soul Calibur all the time. That was actually the game that the first time I saw Soul Calibur on his Dreamcast, I was like, this looks better than it does, or this looks better than arcade games.
Ooh.
That was literally the moment where I realized that we were into another generation, like a different change, because we had N64. We'd had the blocky polygons. We had, we saw how, the PlayStation looked, the Saturn looked like very polygonal. The Dreamcast was the first console that had the smooth models, the flow. The first time I saw Killick spin his staff, I'm telling you, it's burned in my brain because I was always on the floor. I couldn't believe how good the games looked on that thing.
No, I remember because when I got my Dreamcast, we would go and my parents would just buy random titles for us sometimes. But one of the titles we got was, I want to say, Sega Sports Football 2K2. It was one of the Sega Sports titles. It was a football game.
Yeah, those were pretty good.
And I remember when we put it in, my brother and I are, and this is like early 3D graphics, PS2, Sega Dreamcast era. I mean, when you look back on it now, it's not you can tell it's like, okay, it's still not the best looking, but still looks pretty damn good. When I was a kid and I was playing a football game on PlayStation 2 at one of my dad's friends' houses, and I was playing this on my Dreamcast, my brother and I were just sitting there in awe, thinking, oh my God, this looks just like it would on a TV. They look so real, so lifelike. It looks so good. If I were to put it in, now, I don't want to say we're spoiled, but we definitely got used to. I mean, okay, we probably are a little bit spoiled.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I even bring that up is because when I used to go to arcades, RIP, there were more arcades around. But
thankfully, if once again, if you ever decide to come out to Southern California for a vacation, hit me up, because I got
more. Yeah,
I got places to take you, dude. I got a lot of places I want to take you.
I'm telling you, we do have. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and we do have an area that it's like an old, like a mill type area where it's like brick and but they've converted into like axe throwing and like craft beer and restaurants, pizza places. It's super cool. But we have word that there is a retro bar that open up around there, and that I cannot wait for. We need more places like that. But when I used to go to arcades when I was a kid, that was where I'll give you a great example here. We had a Fuddruckers by my house, and some Fuddruckers would have like a couple of arcade machines.
I've actually never been to one. I know they exist. There's one in close to my house. There's one in Ontario, California, but I mean, because of COVID, I haven't been able to go. But I just, because I know Shakey's, because we still have Shakey's here in California. They have arcades everywhere. Some pizza parlors still have arcades, which always make me happy.
Once in a while they'll have a couple. We actually, the one we had, they had two machines. They were near where the restrooms were.
Oh.
When you walk back to the restroom, they were just sitting there, and it was Street Fighter 2, Simpsons Arcade.
Oh.
And I played the Simpsons Arcade game, and that still one of my favorite arcade beat 'em ups ever made.
It is one of the best. It is one of the best beat 'em ups. Before,
it was so much fun.
Oh yeah, before COVID happened, because there's a local arcade, or in Fullerton, there's an arcade, and it's also a used game store called Lost Levels. I always shout them out. So how's it going, Lost Levels? The first time, because I played the Simpsons arcade game at like Chuck E. Cheese and other few places, but since they had, because the way they do it is like you pay like $10 for 3 minutes, or like $5 for 30 minutes, $10 for the whole day.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's a good way.
And all the arcade games are free play, so you can just keep hitting the credit button. Just like keep hitting the button to get more credits, and the next thing you know, you can actually play through the whole game and beat it.
Which is something that we could never do when I was a kid. If you wanted to do Simpsons Arcade, and keep in mind, this is where you would go to, somewhere, and you give them $5 or however many dollars you had and get quartered, and that would be what you had. So I remember one day I went to an arcade and I had $5, and I to the guy who gave out the quarters. And this was at a beach. It was like a beach where a pier was, and there was this arcade that was literally like just near the dock. It was super cool. Like, I miss it, but it was like all kinds of old machines. Like, they had Operation Wolf, they had Mortal Kombat 2, they had, skee ball machines, they had Spy Hunter, they had just random stuff in there. But I remember going in there one day and I walked up to the guy and gave him $5. And he was like, well, how much do you want? And I was like, all of it. He goes, you're going to do a lot of gaming, huh? And in the time I was like, yeah, man, there's a lot of quarters, but it really wasn't, because when you played games that are designed to take your money, the Simpsons arcade machine was super guilty of that. If you beat that game with quarters, you were going to spend at least $20.
Yep.
If in quarters to try to beat that game. But I remember playing it, and I guess kind of where I'm correlating this is that I played that game as a kid. I was probably 6, 7. I think I was around 6 years old when I played it. I remember thinking in my head, I didn't understand that I couldn't also play that at home on the NES. And we went to Blockbuster Video, and they had the Simpsons Bart versus the Space Mutants on the NES, and I rented it because I thought it was going to be similar to the one I played in Fuddruckers on the arcade cabinet. And I got it home, and I was like, this is not the same. And that game sucks. Like, it really sucks. And I remember playing it and being so disappointed. And so I always knew from that point forward that the arcades, and it was true, arcades had the top cream of the crop. Sound. When you played like Tekken, Virtua Fighter, whatever, all those games, you were getting the best version. Mortal Kombat, the arcade version was crazy different from the home console releases. So that's how it was. But the Dreamcast comes out, and then all of a sudden you've got arcade quality at home.
Yeah.
That was when we knew when you look at Soul Calibur, when we grew up, we really saw that jump. Like, this is insane. Yeah. This is literally so different than what we're used to. And now you can kind of look at that time as when arcades started to die, not long after that, because, over the next decade or so, because those experiences were at home now. Yeah. You didn't have like the top tier stuff that was better than anything you could get at home anymore.
I remember. So I don't know if you've watched documentary, because there's a few documentaries on Netflix there's one called High Score, which
I have not watched yet. It's in my queue.
I would highly recommend. It's a really, really, I've watched it like twice and a half. I love
it's really good.
I really enjoy it. There's a few things I'm kind of like, but I still really enjoy it. It's really good look into video game history. And of course, the first episode, they mentioned the game crash of 1983. And they bring Howard Scott Warshaw in, and they talk about E.T., but also they point the finger at, no pun intended, for ET fans, they point the finger at the console release, the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man, because that was another thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because when you mentioned about going to a Blockbuster, renting that Simpsons game, thinking, oh, this is just like the arcade, and you're like, wait, no, it's not. That was like the biggest one-for-one difference. Whereas you have the beautiful, crisp, clean lines of the cabinet, and then you got the, I don't want to call it a monstrosity, because I have played it. There was I went to a video game convention a few years ago, and they had a 2600 set up with the Pac-Man cart, and I decided to play it, and yikes.
Yeah, that is not a good port of Pac-Man. It's bad. But the Atari, I have a weird relationship. Like, I have a weird opinion of Atari and of the 2600, 1500, all that, because I was not of that time. I was an NES kid. That's where I started.
I was a Genesis SNES kid, so for me,
Atari
is like, what's that?
The Atari, I have tremendous respect for the Atari.
Oh yeah, me too.
Of what it did, and there were other consoles that came out before that that were pretty primitive, but the Atari really made, aside from the crash, right? It really made the idea of having consoles with interchangeable cartridges, whatever.
Well, technically that was the Fairtown Channel F, but Atari took that idea.
Right. They made it. They popularized it.
Yeah. Atari
became a thing where people like it.
I apologize for correcting you, but
no, I don't mind,
because I'm glad that because now in our current global climate, or especially our political climate, we're really trying to emulate African American inventors, and Jerry Lewis. What was Jerry Lewis? Yeah,
we posted about him actually, because I that's one of the things that when we had Black History Month in February, we wanted to find somebody to recognize, from our sector, which was retro gaming, and so we mentioned him And on Twitter, we did a post about him. And that guy was super cool. And yeah, you're right. He was the one that, if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have interchangeable parts. The only thing that Atari did is they made it mainstream.
Yeah.
They made it to where most people had an Atari. Well, not as much as people had the NES later, but a lot of homes had Ataris.
They did.
And the only reason it crashed, or the main reason it crashed, is because they had quality control wasn't a thing.
No, it wasn't.
People could just release games for it, and so it became oversaturated. And you know the rest. But
oh yeah, I love reading into. I'm a big amateur video game historian. I love reading into the crash. I love reading into the console wars of the '90s when we were growing up.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
that was the best time. That was the best time.
But yeah, I also have this. The exact same thing. I respect Atari. What they did for video games is awesome, but it's
hard to play their games.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to play the games. I want to play Adventure to try and get the.
Yeah, it's cool. The problem, I guess, the issue, and I had an Atari 2600 that I years ago, and I ended up selling it. I think it's because I think about my collection and what I want to have, and it was before my time. And while I respect it, I don't enjoy playing the games enough to really want one. And that was like where I kind of put a thing. I'm not saying I won't have one later.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people that grew up with Atari have already collected theirs and gotten their game collections. But if I'm going to sit down and play Atari, I'm going to sit down and play Atari for about 5 minutes.
And then you're done.
And then I'm done. And it's nothing against, obviously I appreciate it and respect it, but that is kind of a time where it's harder. And some people feel that way about the NES.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to go back and play some of those games because they are a little more primitive. I think like the SNES, you can go back and play.
Yeah, if you look at the graphics from the 8-bit to 16-bit, it is leaps and bounds. But then when you look at 8-bit to the 2-bit of the Atari,
it was insane. Like it was very, very primitive, but super cool, and I do respect it.
Although there are 2 games, or there are 3 games actually for the 2600 that if I never own the console, I still want to own the game carts solely for historical reasons. Adventure, E.T., and Yar's Revenge.
Yeah.
Adventure because that's the first. I mean, I didn't know about the first Easter egg. I think I did, but when I read Ready Player One and then I watched the movie, and I was like,
they talked about it in that movie, right?
Yeah, they do that because that's where the main character finally finds the egg and the main prize. But I like how that's Warren Robinette's name is in the game. He snuck it in there, and there you go, first ever Easter egg.
Super cool.
Yeah, Yars and E.T. solely because Howard Scott Warshaw, he made one of his best games, Yar's Revenge, and one of the worst games ever made. And even though people will crap on E.T., I don't
even think E.T.'s that bad. It got that title as the worst game ever made, but I've played worse.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Pac-Man is worse because at least with E.T. you got something. Because I did play E.T. I played for about, I want to say like 25 minutes at a Retro Gaming Expo. And at first I was like, yeah, this is a really bad game because I kept falling to the damn pits.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
Yeah, but when at least on E.T., you know what you're doing, and it's its own thing. Where if you look at Pac-Man, you are expecting what you see is definitely not what you get. Because if you're thinking, oh, Pac-Man, arcade game at my home, hell yeah. You get home and you're like, what the hell is this crap?
Yeah. At least NES pulled that off with Donkey Kong. You know, like when you played Donkey Kong, it was Donkey Kong.
Yeah, but of course, that was like a more primitive thing. But even the NES version of Pac-Man, still not the best version of Pac-Man. As much as cool as it was, it looked just right enough. Not the best. Not my favorite.
Pretty poor. And I do think, again, that is it gives you an idea of how different things were back then and how, how vast the differences were between home console releases and what you would see in arcades. So
but you know what home console game has really not disappointed me ever since I played it? This beauty, Pokemon. 25 years. Now Sonic. So the Sonic anniversary, because I just turned 30 years old in November. I am now 30. I'm turning 31 this November, and to see Sonic the Hedgehog turning 30 years old this year is like, holy crap! I grew up with this character, and then looking at Pokemon, which just had their 25th anniversary, even though the games came out in '98 here in the States, they were out in '96 in Japan.
Right.
So seeing Pokemon turn 25, which is a series and a franchise that I went head first. It was like the first big fad.
You were in the right age range for that.
Oh, I was in elementary school. I remember.
Yep. You were in that age range.
No, I will always remember the day my parents brought home Pokemon. We didn't ask for it. My brother and I didn't even know this existed. All we wanted were Game Boys. And this was right before the Game Boy Color came out too. So I remember my mom asking me if I wanted a Game Boy or a Game Boy, wait a little longer a Game Boy Color.
You're like, yeah.
I was a very impatient kid, so I said I want the Game Boy first.
Yeah.
We eventually got Game Boy Colors, but that was through a lot of begging.
Yeah.
So my brother and I, we had our Game Boys. He had Earthworm Jim. I had Godzilla as our games, and that were the only games we had. Still have them to this day too.
Nice.
And then my mom comes home. My dad comes home. They call my brother and I into the living room, and they say, "All right, Ben, you're the oldest. You get to pick." We went to the store, and we heard about this game that is 2-player, so you and your brother can play it. And they pull out Pokemon Red and Blue.
That's cool.
I had no idea what this was. No one. It was. I was like, I just see a turtle with guns on its shoulders and a dragon. So I go with the dragon. I go with Charizard.
Right, yeah, I get it. Of course.
And thankfully that was the right choice, because my brother, after we were talking, my brother said, "Cool, I actually wanted I think the turtle looks cool."
Okay. Yeah. I have blue. I don't have red.
Yeah.
So got it like a year ago. So
and of course, once we started playing it, we had no idea what to do. I mean, we could thankfully read, but we are also really young and impatient, so we just like keep hitting the button, and every time we go to the Pokemart, we just spend all our money on Pokeballs.
Right.
We did not know how to play Pokemon, but we talked to our friends at school. They were like, "Oh my God, you got Pokemon!" And then we found out about the TV show, the Pokemon cards. We fell head first. I remember waking up.
Phenomenon back then.
Oh yeah, I was fully into it. And I will admit, there have been times where I've fallen off the bandwagon and gotten back on the bandwagon. When I was in high school, when Diamond came out, I have my red version and I got silver version. Silver is, if you can see that, silver is my favorite. Absolutely love silver. That is in my opinion, that is the best Pokemon game ever made. No Pokemon game can hold a candle to silver. Gold, silver, the best. But Diamond was the game that got me back into Pokemon. Okay. Because I was in high school when it came out, and I remember, because when you're in middle school, you're trying to be cool, and you're also starting to notice girls, or
right, yeah,
or you're trying to notice whatever person you like. So you're trying to
priorities change a little bit. Yeah,
yes, they do. So, and when I was in high school, a bunch of my friends were playing Pokemon. They said it was really fun. So I thought, all right, I actually went out and got it for my DS, and then I thought to myself on my drive home from GameStop, I was thinking, all right, my brother's gonna see this. Because my brother, even though he was my younger brother, growing up, he was more like the cool kid, and I was more the nerd and the dork.
Gotcha.
And I thought to myself, I was like, he's probably gonna give me crap. He's probably gonna just like yell at me. He's like, why'd you spend money on this game? You're not a kid anymore. So I was like, I had this great argument lined up of how he should mind his own damn business and let me play what I want to play. So a few hours later, I'm in my room, I'm playing the game. He comes in, he sees the case, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Yeah. His reaction was, and I shit you not, oh my God, dude, you got Pokemon? That's awesome. And it's like, he rips it off my shelf. He's like, oh, I was hoping you were going to get Diamond. Yes. I'm like, wow. I'm sitting there going, what? Like, I'm in the middle of picking my starter, and I'm like flabbergasted. Like, right. What?
Man, it's so funny because Jay and I have had these conversations a lot about. We've been talking a lot about Pokemon lately, but there's a reason that we have been, and we've mentioned this a little bit before. We've commented on. We've had people that interact with us on Twitter and ask us about Pokemon and everything, and we were at. That's why I mentioned your age. Yeah, because we were literally. When Pokemon started to be a thing, when it came out, we were at the wrong age.
Yeah, you were in what, middle school or high school already when Pokemon was coming out?
I was in, so let's see, it came out, what, 98?
Officially now, it launched 98 here in the States, yeah.
98. So I was in 8th grade.
Okay, you were just about to.
Actually, I was probably in ninth grade.
So you were in high school or about to go into high school. Yeah, that's definitely the wrong age to get into Pokemon.
Yeah, I went to junior high. So I was I was 7th through 9th at junior high, and then high school from 10th to 12th. And I think I was in ninth grade when that game came out, because I would have started in 98. So around that time.
Okay.
I remember going to a friend's house, and he had a Nintendo Power because he still had a subscription at the time. And I saw, he was like, hey, have you heard about this Pokemon or whatever? And I looked at it, and I'll be honest with you, at my age, because I was like 14, I looked at it and I was like, like I wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And this looks really childish. So no, I don't care. Let's play Turok.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the age we were at. We were at that age where the N64 was, you know, that's what we were playing, or the PlayStation. And we were like, we wanted blood and guts and shooting and adult stuff. That's what we wanted.
You wanted Doom, essentially.
We wanted Doom. You know, GoldenEye was out. We were GoldenEye. We didn't care about that stuff anymore. So it's like we got to that age, and then years later, and my younger sister like had Pokemon cards. Liked the Pokemon cards. She didn't have the games, but she loved the cards because all of her friends had the cards. So they were collecting all that stuff. She's still got like a huge collection of her original Pokemon cards from the first run somewhere. I don't think she cares about it anymore, but she's got it somewhere.
My girlfriend, she still has her Pokemon cards. I unfortunately got rid of mine eons ago. I keep it was one of those things I wish I can go back to when I was a little kid, to like I can go back in time to young me and be like, hey, you see these things, don't get rid of them no matter what mom and dad say. Hold on.
Yeah. I mean, it was so huge. I mean, like but I was still dismissive for years. I didn't, because again, I was at that age.
Yeah.
You know, I was more concerned about watching The Matrix, you know, like that. Like I was at that age. And so like when I got to college, still didn't really care about it that much. It wasn't until years later where I had some friends who are about your age that I met. I lived in Seoul in South Korea for about 3 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I met some people from all over, you know, and I had a couple friends who were a little younger, and a buddy of mine, Cody, he was from Texas. And he was, so he's probably about your age. He might be maybe a year older than you.
Okay.
But he was, you know, he's one of those guys, like he'd walk in. I remember we were talking about games, and he walked in and he had a beer, and he cracked the beer, and he's like, so who's your favorite Pokemon? I'm like, what? And he was at that age though, to where Pokemon was his shit. That's what he did. And he was obsessed with it. And like Jay and I, again, we talked about it. The only Pokemon game, Ben, that I ever played, rented Pokemon Snap. What we're covering for our next episode. So we are covering Pokemon Snap for the next episode. I've been playing it again. I rented it from Blockbuster when it came out. I remember the kiosk at Blockbuster where you could take your memory card and all that stuff. And that was the only Pokemon game I ever played. And the only reason I played it is because it was on N64, and I thought it was cool that you could take pictures. And I loved it. I loved the game quite a bit. I actually really enjoyed it, but I never played a Pokemon game until maybe 5 years ago.
You played the spin-off, which I would argue that Pokemon Snap is a more popular spin-off than Pokemon Stadium.
It's really cool. And you know, and Jay is actually enjoying it too. Like he's never played a Pokemon game either. We have a plan. Our plan, and let me get your opinion on this, Ben, because this is something we're gonna do. Talk about how we want to do our episodes. And as you mentioned, with our show, we cover usually one game at a time. We do have ideas for we're gonna do you know, a series of games and things like that. But we have an interesting idea with Pokemon. Maybe it's not that interesting, but I think it is. None of us have ever played the original Pokemon games. So my idea is that both of us would play it, but one of us would play red and one of us would play blue.
That's the way to do it.
And then come together and talk about our experiences as new Pokemon players.
So I think that is an amazing idea.
Okay.
My roommate, so myself, my roommate, and my girlfriend, all three of us live together. We still have our original copies. I have my red, he has a blue, and my girlfriend has a yellow version.
Okay. Yes.
So you don't necessarily need yellow because yellow came out because that was like
that was, which is weird because like green came out in Japan. We never got that.
Oh, green was originally blue, and then blue came out.
Was it?
Yeah.
So it's confusing as hell to me because I remember I was like, "There's blue and red, but isn't there a third Pokemon? Why didn't they do 3?"
I think the reason why I think they came out with the Pikachu edition because I got Pokemon Yellow. Unfortunately, funny enough, I was flying home from a trip, and I lost my yellow version, and I think it fell out of my bag in the taxi.
That sucks.
And I couldn't because I brought my red version with me, but I also had my yellow.
Yeah.
And I just gotten Charmander. I re-downloaded the game years later on my 3DS because it's $5. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Pikachu version really came out because of how popular the anime was here in the United States.
Pikachu was really famous at the time. Like at least but like he was starting to get super popular. So they capitalized on that for sure.
And even the Team Rocket sprites you fight in the game because you have like the grunts, the rocket grunts. But then you go to a specific part in Mount Moon when you're going to Sterling City, you actually fight Jesse and James.
Yeah.
You have to fight their Arbok, Coughing, and Meowth.
Yep.
And their sprites look exactly like they do in the anime. So it's like.
Yeah, they totally were going for that.
and of course, and not only do you have Pikachu as your starter, you get all 3 starters, Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur in one go.
It's like the Game of the Year edition.
It kind of is.
It's essentially what it is. And I thought about it. We've talked about it a lot. We really have. And we're doing Pokemon Snap A because the new one's coming out really soon, and we kind of just go ahead and get that out there because we both have Switches. He finally got a Switch, and so he's interested in it as well. And we're gonna be getting that game, so we're like, let's play the original. He had never played it, so I think he's enjoying himself. I'm looking forward to that conversation. But then we talked about it, and we were like, if we're going to finally play Pokemon, like really play Pokemon, we need to start from the beginning. We need to start from the first 2 releases of Red and Blue. Just play through them and then come together and see how we feel about them. Because I think if we had first started them maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we might not have cared as much. But now I feel like because of how much more we appreciate retro games now, I think I'm optimistic that we're really going to have a good time playing those games because I have nothing but great things about them.
Part of me really wants to also get in on this. I don't want as much as when I hear a bunch of people like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm like, how do I get in on this without like forcing myself in? Because I don't want to be that guy to like force myself into a conversation and force myself into something that's already established. But hearing you guys wanting to play through the original Pokemon games, because that's what my roommate wants to do. He wants myself, my girlfriend, and I to boot up our Game Boys and just play through Pokemon and try to complete the National 151 decks. And
that's kind of. I don't know if we can do the whole deck, but I know we're going to try to play through completely as we can, in the time frame.
Or maybe not at least complete the 151 because apparently Mew is like there's like so many rumors on how to get Mew in original Red and Blue versions, but at least get through the point where you can go and get Mewtwo.
Yeah.
So for me,
is because my sister had the Pokemon the first movie soundtrack. I remember listening to that and seeing Mewtwo on the cover and was like, he looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, why does this Pokemon look so much cooler than all the other ones?
Yeah, I remember.
Because the other ones are so cute.
No, that movie. I remember.
Looks like,
I remember that movie came out the weekend of what I think my 11th birthday.
Oh, I was in high school, I think, when the movie came out.
I was in elementary school when we heard the Pokemon movie was coming out. My brother and I were like, we have to go. And then we see the date. It was like November 12th. And that was just before my birthday. So, of course, and this is also during the big Burger King Pokemon thing.
Okay.
So, of course, I told my parents what I wanted to do for my birthday, get my friends together. We go to Burger King because there's a Burger King right next to the movie theater. Yep. We have the birthday party at the Burger King, go see the movie, and then we're done.
That's great. That sounds like a lot of fun. That's something you'd want to do as a kid for sure.
Well, for me, it was awesome. I think for my parents, it was a living nightmare.
I bet it was.
because they had a bunch of these elementary school kids with Pokemon toys, like trying to
Singing
have
the Pokemon song. Yeah.
like having like trying to have like little Pokemon battles with the toys, and then they have to round us all up to go to the movie theater. They give us our Pokemon cards. We're like, oh, I got Mewtwo. Oh, I
Yeah.
got this Pokemon card.
It's such a big, I mean, like I do remember like it kind of boggled my mind at the time, like how popular Pokemon was at the, in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And early 2000s. Like I was like, this stuff really took off because I remember seeing, we talked about it when it was in the Nintendo Power and I dismissed it.
Yeah.
And then it got huge and I was like, okay. And I didn't really even understand much about it, but I'm actually really excited to play it. And Jay is too. We both are really into RPGs, or we grew up with a lot of, Final Fantasy games, and those were a big deal to us. And these are, RPG-ish games. So they're games that I think both of us are going to enjoy. So I'm really looking forward to that. When we're going to do it, I don't know. Hopefully within the next few months, but it just depends on timing because we're talking about doing Castlevania as well. But we're trying to figure that out. But Pokemon Snap is definitely next.
Oh, no. I'm excited to listen to your Pokemon Snap episode because a few years ago.
I hope you enjoy it.
No, a few years ago, I bought the game for one of my best friends, but my roommate at the time, he had an N64, and I told him, and he was like, "Hey, I don't have an N64 yet," but because he did like this eBay thing where he was like buying and selling consoles off of eBay and selling them.
Okay.
He was like, like this little business thing. He did a lot with Pokemon games. That was his thing, was doing that with Pokemon games.
Okay.
So he was waiting. So he was like, "Hey, I'm waiting for a Pikachu N64," and he was like, very like, "I want to play Pokemon Snap on my Pikachu N64, but you hold on to us and you could play it." So we played it. We beat the game. It was myself and my other friends. She's like my sister, my girlfriend. The three of us took turns, and we beat the game in about less than 2 hours, maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
And we realized that, as we were playing, it was like, oh, I remember all this, the nostalgia, like throwing the apple at Charmeleon so you can falls in the pit and he becomes Charizard, or getting that picture, or hitting the egg and Moltres rising from the volcano, or seeing all the.
That game is how I learned who most of the original Pokemon were, because I didn't know, like I said, I didn't care, and so I don't even know what compelled me, aside from the fact that it was an N64 game. Had the photography thing, which I thought was cool. And I'll tell you what, I think what happened is at the Blockbuster, they had the game on the demo console. So, like Pokemon Snap, where you could walk up to the little bubble where was on the bubble and you got the little CRT screen.
I remember.
I was in there and just tried to play it like a controller. I would do that. I didn't care what the game was. If there was a try it game out in a Blockbuster or somewhere, I was going to play it. And I played it a little bit and was like, this is fun. Something about this is fun. And so I rented the game. And that is where I knew who Pikachu was. And I knew like Squirtle. And I knew Bulbasaur and Charmander. And that was like it. And those were like the ones that everybody knows, right? So do that. But then I started to learn about the others. And some that were super weird. And, that's how I even became introduced those characters. So like I'm more familiar. I really do I have like my own weird affection for that original run of Pokemon because they're so iconic now. And I've seen the newer generations and there's some that are pretty cool, but like, I don't know, that original run. Do you feel that way? I mean, I ask you as a Pokemon fan, do you feel like there is a version or like whether it's a series, because I know they usually do 2 releases every time a game comes out for the most part.
They do 2 releases, and then once in a while they'll do a third one, because it was the original one, it was Pokemon Red and Blue, and then Pikachu Yellow version came out. But the thing I love about that is that you still needed the other 2 games to complete the Pokedex.
Right. So did you have a time frame, or was there a group of Pokemon that you personally like the best? I know you said Silver's your favorite, but is there a group of them that were released in a particular game that you feel is most iconic to you?
I mean, for me, the most iconic is the original 150 or the original 151, because that was the
I feel like most people probably feel that way, right? I mean,
especially Pokemon, I would say Pokemon fans who grew up like me, when we were introduced to it, I was like, there's 151 of these monsters, and I remember people, because my brother, we had a poster with all 151 or with all 150.
Yeah.
We had a guidebook. We had all this Pokemon paraphernalia at our house.
Sure.
That there were times we would try to quiz ourselves on how if we can name them all in order. And it wasn't like who can beat the game, who can complete the Pokedex in the game. It was, can you name all 150?
Yeah.
And then when the new 100 came out and with Gold and Silver, so as iconic as the original generation is, I feel that is the iconic one. That's a great place to start. But the reason why I say Gold, Silver, and Crystal is the best one is because that game does what a sequel should do, which is take what was great about the original, improve upon it, and add it. So Silver version to me, it is Pokemon perfected. No other Pokemon game has ever done this. Because I know you've never played Silver, but one of the best things about it is, so in the original Pokemon game, you go to the Elite Four, you beat the Elite Four, you beat your rival, you go catch Mewtwo, you're done. The only other thing left to do is find the rest of the Pokemon you can catch, find a friend, trade a bunch, and then boom, you have the National Dex, your 150 Pokemon completed, you're done, you're good. In Silver, you beat the Elite Four, the original Kanto version is open. You don't have just 8 gym leaders to fight. You now have 16.
Okay.
And the very last fight, the very end fight of the entire game is against the character you played as in Red, Blue, and Yellow.
That's cool.
It's Trainer Red on top of I'm spoilers, I'm sorry, but
no, you're good. I probably knew this and forgot.
Yeah, it's Trainer Red on top of Mount Silver, and it is the most epic fight ever. But that's fact that after I beat the Elite Four, because Silver, not just for me, Silver holds a special place in my heart because that was the game where I finally learned how to play Pokemon. Even though I was playing forever on my Red version, I would pick Charmander. I would go to the first gym and get my ass handed to me because rock types are strong against fire types, and I was steamrolling everyone with my starter.
Yeah,
I wasn't building my other team. The concept of level grinding wasn't a thing for me.
Yeah,
the concept of levels and having your Pokemon stronger to fight, getting your levels up there and your stats up there, it was just a whole bunch of numbers. I didn't care.
Right.
I'm just like, Charmander, go.
Yeah, it's still just super interesting for me to ask because I did see a video. I don't know if you've ever seen this YouTube video, but I went down a rabbit hole. I tend to do sometimes. I do it on Wikipedia and I do it on YouTube. But there was a video years ago that I saw, and I'm gonna have to find the link and send it to you if you haven't seen it. But it's this guy, and he's got 3 Game Boy Advance SPs open, and he's got a Texas Instruments calculator.
Oh no!
And he's sitting there with it, and it literally the video. There was a longer video, but someone edited it down to just right before this happens. And he's got his hands, and he's just doing back and forth, walking in a certain spot in a copy of each game on 3 SPs, and getting into battles and just constantly out. And he's logging this on his calculator. And then at one point, I didn't know what was going on. You understand? Like, I didn't know Pokemon. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I didn't know enough about it to understand what was happening. But apparently, and you'll know this, I'm sure. So when I tell you this, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's why he got so excited. But you know how when you start a battle and it kind of shifts in and, you know, the Pokemon lines up or what, and you see what it is? It was a Ponyta. This, but it was a shiny Ponyta.
Oh.
And so he goes, that's what I'm saying. So as soon as he sees it, and I'm not going to recreate this. I'm not going to do it because I'll lose my voice. But he starts screaming at the top of his lungs and going, there it is. There it is. There. And he keeps going and he's losing his shit. And and then he hooks it in. He's like, oh my God. And he plugs it in and he's sitting there with it. And he's like, oh, and he's looking through, you don't see his face, but he's plugging it in because he's freaking out and he's got to make sure that he catches this thing.
Yeah, because if you knock it out, you're not going to catch it.
Yeah, so he's losing his mind, and he does successfully catch it, and then he's like, okay, I got to save it. And after when the chime comes up when he saves his game, he does like a cheer, and it's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. But he's like, I just want to thank everybody for watching and, you know, for your support. And he shows like how many times he had to go into these random encounters to get this shiny Ponyta, and it was like tens of thousands, 60, 70,000 or something. I can't remember. It was a lot. And I'm like, what? like I didn't understand it, but now that I've learned more about Pokemon and understand that, right, I have more of an appreciation for it because I think that's kind of cool that you have those elusive Pokemon that you may not ever find or may not ever see, but maybe you do. And I like that idea that, that's why a lot of people appreciate these games is that you have these, this type's good against this type and this type and this type, but then you have these secret ones and special ones. So I think there's a lot there to love. And, again, I don't know enough to continue to say too much, but I am looking forward to actually getting into it. And who knows, maybe I'll end up going further in the series after that.
Well, luckily in Red and Blue, as far as I know, you don't have to worry about shinies. Shinies are just they're just color differentiations. I don't know. Now, even as a Pokemon fan who grew up with the series, I didn't know about the existence of shinies until my friend told me about them in Diamond and Pearl.
See, there you go. That's cool though.
Yeah, but funny enough, they existed in Gold and Silver because there's a certain spot in Silver version called the Lake of Rage.
Mm-hmm.
You go up to this lake, and as you go across it, there's this red Gyarados in the middle of the lake that's actually, to progress the story, you have to fight it, and there's also a chance you could catch it.
Okay.
I didn't understand. I just thought when Game Freak put this in, because like when you throw them out of your Pokeball or when you encounter them in battle, the Pokemon lines go through, and then there's this little bling, like these stars go around them, and then of course if you're playing on Game Boy Color, it's red. It is a red Gyarados, and I thought, oh, that's cool because Gyarados is blue.
Right.
So when I finally caught it, because there are times where the first time I played through Silver, I didn't catch, I just knocked it out, and I was bummed.
Yeah.
But then once you go through Legendary, pro tip, when you fight a legendary bird like Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, right before you go up to it, save your game. Just save it, go up, try to get to as little sliver of health as you can, and just chuck Ultra Balls at it. Just start chucking away. Keep healing whatever Pokemon you have in there, but just keep chucking Ultra Balls at it, because if you knock it out, then you have to turn it off and turn it back on again.
Okay.
Even my strategy.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn about all this. It's gonna be
even my strategy guide. Funny enough, the strategy guide that both my brother had and I had, when it says like when you get to the Seafoam Islands, it's close to the end game. It's right before Cinnabar Island, which is Badge 7 or Gym 7. It says like this is where you can find the legendary Ice Bird Articuno. It's not a random encounter. You see him just this bird looking thing just sitting there at the end of the dungeon. Yeah. You just go up, you surf to the thing, when you get on the steps, save the game, and then go talk to it. And then interact with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like how our first playthroughs go.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting for sure. And Ben, I'm probably gonna have to
I was
sorry, I know we get on this is how these tangents go, but it's great.
No, I was looking at the time myself. I'm like, at first I thought I was like, I gotta wrap this up, and then I thought, no, I'm gonna keep going until he says no.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'm just probably gonna get dinner in a bit.
Yeah. Patrick, once again, thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Of course.
Where can people find you? I know your podcast, the Retro Blast Podcast, can be found on Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, your website, retroblastpodcast.com, and Apple. But where else can they find you and the show on the internet?
Yeah, we are as you know, we're very active on Twitter. And that's where people can interact with us. We do have a Discord, but we're still we're not really we're there and we talk to people. We're not super active on it yet. We have it there for people to join us if they want to and be a part of that, and they can reach out to us if they want. But we're getting to that point. We have our mentality is very much, we're trying to make sure, and since we started this, we want to make sure that we don't put the cart before the horse on a lot of things. And so right now we're super focused on the show and super focused on, getting all that stuff out there. And then of course, interacting with people. So Discord is something that we don't want to divert too much time to right now until we, get there. Yeah. But we are on Twitter a lot, so people can find us there at RetroblastUS. And we're also on Instagram, but that's the other thing. We're building that. Again, main focus has been on the show. So Twitter's your best bet. And, I'm trying to think if there's any other way to do it. We don't have a Facebook page. Do that at some point. But I would say Twitter or Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
truth be told, I forget that I'm like part of a few Discord servers. I forget I'm even part of those.
Yeah, I don't, and it's one of those things where if our community, if we get to a point where our community's like super chatty and wants to talk all the time, like I want to be able to provide that for people, and I want feedback, and I want to talk about stuff, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And of course, you could find me personally at BenMagnet27 on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find the Fake Nerd Podcast, the Mother Show, at FakeNerdPodcast.com. You can listen to, now this episode, for those of you watching on YouTube, will go up on YouTube and audio version as well. So you can watch the Fake Nerd or listen to Fake Nerd Podcast here on YouTube. And also you can listen to us on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, so many awesome places. We also have a website, FakeNerdPodcast.com. That's where links to our Patreon are. That's where links to our TeePublic are. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. I'm 99% sure there's a link there, so you can go to Crafted by Z. She makes face masks with our logo on them. That's pretty cool.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, that is rad, because we're still in pandemic, and even though I'm getting a shot soon, I still want to be safe. We gotta be careful. I want this to be extra safe. I want to go to arcades soon, because I went to arcade once and I had to wear gloves and it was fine. But I miss holding those buttons. I miss actually feeling the buttons.
I know. We need the normalcy.
Yep. And let's see, where else? If you can email us at fakenerdguys@gmail.com, Fake Nerd Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I already said my personal one. You can find this awesome guy on Twitter, just like he said 10 minutes ago. Now, once again, thank you so much for joining me, Patrick. I can't open invitation. If you ever want to come back, just hit me up. We'll figure something out, dude.
No problem, man. Sounds good. I appreciate you having me. I always appreciate the conversation.
Of course. And for now, let us unpause and get back to that rage-fueled level in Hades.